I still want intimacy. There, I said it. And even as I say it out loud, I feel the urge to apologize, to laugh it off, to make it sound less serious, less human. But why? Why is it that after a certain age, we're expected to put that part of ourselves away, like a jacket that no longer fits? As if desire has an expiration date, as if touch is something reserved for the young, as if the need for closeness, connection, warmth just disappears when your hair turns gray. It doesn't. I still want to be held, to be kissed, to be looked at like I matter, not just for what I've done in life, but for who I still am. And I know I'm not alone, but no one talks about it, not at family dinners, not in doctors' offices, not in TV shows or magazines, or even most conversations between friends. It's as if the world decided that once we pass 60 or 50 or even 40, intimacy becomes embarrassing. That desire becomes undignified. That craving touch makes you desperate or foolish, and yet here I am, alive, breathing, feeling, wanting. Not always in the ways I did when I was younger, but just as deeply. Sometimes it's not about sex. Sometimes it's about closeness. The kind of connection that quiets your nervous system, the weight of another person's hand on yours, the comfort of lying next to someone who knows you or is learning you gently. I want that, and I refuse to feel ashamed for it. You see, no one prepares you for how isolating aging can feel, how the world stops looking at you with curiosity and starts looking past you with pity, how people assume your heart has shrunk down with your waistline, that your body's softer now, and so your spirit must be too. But the truth, I feel more in this chapter of life than I ever did when I was younger, more aware, more grounded, more open to real connection, not performance or pressure or pretending. I've spent decades giving, building families, careers, caretaking, and now that I finally have space to feel again, the world wants me to go quiet, to accept that intimacy is for others, to politely fade out of that part of life. But I'm not fading. I'm still here, and this part of me, the part that craves intimacy, is not something I'm willing to bury just to make other people comfortable. I know what it's like to go to bed and miss the weight of someone breathing beside you, to touch your own arm because it's been weeks or months since someone else has, to wonder if you're strange for wanting more when everyone around you seems to have given up on that kind of closeness. Let me be clear. Wanting intimacy at this age doesn't make you strange. It makes you human. And intimacy doesn't always mean sex. Sometimes it means conversation that goes past the surface. Sometimes it means being seen, really seen, in a world that looks past aging faces. Sometimes it means laughter, long hugs, holding hands, or just falling asleep knowing someone is in the next room who cares if you wake up. We talk about exercise, about protein, about saving for retirement and strengthening your bones, but we don't talk about the ache of going without touch, without connection, without the one thing that kept our hearts young when our bodies started to change. I still want intimacy, and I no longer care who thinks that's taboo. There are things that have changed. I won't lie about that. My body feels different now. It moves slower. It's softer in places that used to be tight. It creaks. It sighs. It tires quicker than it used to. And yes, sometimes intimacy looks different too. What once came naturally now takes more time, more intention, more trust. But what hasn't changed is the desire to be close, to feel wanted, to feel like I'm still connected to something beyond just daily routines. In fact, that desire has deepened because now I understand it's not about proving anything, not about performance, not about being good at intimacy. It's about presence. It's about sharing space without shame. It's about letting someone see your scars and still feeling beautiful. It's about softness that comes with age, not in spite of it. And yet, so many people over 60 pretend that part of them is gone, that they no longer want touch. That closeness is just something from the old days. But I know better. And I've met enough people to know I'm not the only one who knows better. We just don't talk about it. There's a silence around senior intimacy, like the world expects us to hang up that part of our identity once we hit a certain number, as if needing affection becomes inappropriate, as if sleeping alone for years is just part of the deal. But who made that rule? Because I'll be honest, I don't want to live the rest of my life untouched, unseen, unfelt. I've spent years making sure everyone else had what they needed. My kids, my partner, my job. And now that I have space to ask what I need, I won't pretend affection is off the table. For some of us, physical changes make things harder. Hormones shift, energy changes. For women, dryness and sensitivity. For men, performance fears, emotional walls. But none of those things should take intimacy off the table. They just mean the table looks different now. Intimacy becomes slower, more about conversation, more about closeness than climax, more about sharing breath than chasing pleasure. It becomes about what you feel, not what you look like. And in many ways, it becomes more real. When we're younger, intimacy is fast and wild and full of guessing. But after 60, it becomes something that grows from trust, from presence, from truly wanting to connect, not impress. It's deeper, and maybe that's why it's harder to find, because we live in a world that's obsessed with speed, with youth, with appearances. So aging bodies and aging hearts get left out of the conversation. You rarely see people over 60 kissing in a movie. You don't hear them talking about attraction. You don't see ads about emotional touch or late life desire, and yet I still want it. And I know many others do too. Not because we're trying to hang on to youth, but because we're trying to hang on to something human. Because we know the value of a hand on your back, of a good hug, of sleeping beside someone who knows your history and still chooses you today. So much of the world tells us to act our age, but no one can tell me that craving closeness is immature. That wanting connection is something I should have outgrown. You don't outgrow the need to be loved. You don't outgrow the need to be held. You don't outgrow the need to feel wanted, even if your hair is gray and your body doesn't move like it used to. I still want intimacy, not out of desperation, but out of wholeness, because love doesn't stop aging, and aging doesn't stop the need for love. Here's the truth. The taboo around intimacy after 60, it doesn't come from our bodies. It doesn't come from our hearts. It comes from the world around us. We were raised to be modest, to keep things private, to avoid uncomfortable topics, especially when it comes to touch, desire, longing. We were taught that love was for marriage and marriage was forever, that sex was sacred, but also secret, that aging gracefully meant aging quietly, and aging quietly meant never mentioning things like pleasure or need. But what happens when you lose the partner you built your life around, or when your body still feels alive but the world treats you like you're past your prime? You end up feeling something that's harder than loneliness. You feel invisible. Movies don't show people like us falling in love. Magazines don't put older couples on covers with their arms wrapped around each other. No one asks what it's like to date after a divorce or after 40 years of marriage. And when we do bring it up, we're met with jokes, discomfort, or worse, silence. But we don't stop being human at 60. We don't stop craving connection. We don't stop hoping for someone to lean into us, literally or emotionally. And here's what I've learned. The real taboo is not talking about this. Because when we don't talk about it, we start to believe we're the only ones. We isolate ourselves, we shrink. We convince ourselves that maybe we shouldn't want touch anymore, that maybe we're selfish for wanting love again, that maybe it's time to act our age. But that's the lie. That's the part no one says out loud. So let me say it clearly. There is nothing shameful about craving closeness. Even after 60, there is nothing wrong with wanting to be desired, and there is nothing foolish about looking for love, whether it's your first time, your second time, or your fifth. Intimacy is not just about sex. It's about presence, companionship, affection. The kind of touch that says, you still matter. And no, not everyone will understand. Some people will be uncomfortable when you speak your truth, but discomfort has never been a good enough reason to stay silent. I've met people in their 70s and 80s who are still discovering new things about their bodies, their hearts, their ability to feel close again. And you know what I see in them? Not shame, but bravery. Because it's brave to admit you still want to be touched. It's brave to seek connection after heartbreak. It's brave to be open when the world tells you to be quiet. So no, I won't apologize for still wanting intimacy. Not now, not ever. I've learned that you can be soft and strong. You can be aging and still alive. You can be alone and still deserving of closeness. Whether it's with someone new or with the person who stood by you for decades, or even with yourself. Yes, even that. Self-intimacy. Taking care of your body with tenderness, not rushing, not hiding, letting yourself enjoy the rituals of touch, rest, affection, without judgment. Because part of claiming intimacy at this age is unlearning the shame we were raised with. Letting go of the belief that desire belongs only to the young, or that comfort and closeness are rewards you only get if you're lucky enough to keep your marriage together. This chapter of life, it's not about going silent. It's about speaking the things we were never allowed to say. So I'll say it again, clearly and without apology. I still want intimacy. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, they can look away. But I won't disappear just because I've aged. It's taken me years to understand this. You don't stop deserving intimacy just because the world stopped offering it. Touch is not a reward. Closeness is not something you age out of, and desire is not a switch that turns off after a certain birthday. If anything, this chapter, this quieter, slower, more honest stage of life, is when intimacy becomes more meaningful than ever. Because now, we're not pretending, we're not performing, we're not chasing someone else's idea of romance or trying to fit into someone else's story now. We just want real. We want to sit with someone who listens, to share space with someone who sees us not just as a grandparent or a widow or a statistic, but as a person still full of emotion, energy, and curiosity. And if that someone hasn't come along yet, that's okay too. because you don't need a partner to be intimate with life. There's intimacy in slow mornings, in taking care of your body, not out of vanity, but out of respect, in stretching gently, in bathing without rushing, in letting your hands linger on your own skin and saying, you are still worthy of love. There's intimacy in being present with yourself, in making a meal for one and sitting down to enjoy it, in lighting a candle not for the atmosphere, but for the intention, in choosing softness over shame. The most powerful intimacy I've found, it didn't come from someone else. It came from giving myself permission to feel again, to want again, to stop pretending I was over it. So, to anyone watching this who's felt invisible, who's wondered if they were the only one still craving closeness, in a world that acts like you're past your prime, I see you. And I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not too old. You are not inappropriate for wanting connection. You are not alone. You are still here, still breathing, still human, still deserving of affection, softness, and yes, intimacy. It's not taboo, it's real, and it's brave to speak it out loud. You don't need to explain your wants to people who don't understand. You don't need to shrink yourself for the comfort of others. You don't need to ask permission to feel, whether it's holding hands, sharing space, falling in love again, or simply honoring your own body with care and tenderness. This part of you is not something to hide. It's something to hold. And if someone, somewhere, ever makes you feel small for admitting you still want intimacy, let them feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is theirs to hold, not yours. You've earned this softness. You've earned this truth. You've earned the right to say, I still want love, and I will no longer apologize for that. This is not the end of desire. It's the beginning of deeper connection with yourself, with others, with life. So let it in, slowly, honestly, with your head held high. And if no one else says it to you today, let me. You are still worthy of being touched, of being loved, of being seen. Soft call to action. If this message reached you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. You don't have to share everything. You don't have to explain. Just let us know you're here, that you felt it too. And if this video made you feel a little more seen, please like and subscribe. Not just for more content, but to help more people feel less alone. This is Stronger After 60, where we speak the quiet truths out loud.